You might be someone my age, you might be older than me, you might be younger than me, but it all starts with self. It starts with you. Because honestly, if I'm not good, how can I pour into my family? How can I pour into my community? How can I pour into the people who need me? If you're pouring from an empty cup, it's not possible. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Ignite the World podcast. This is episode number 42, Balancing Acts, Navigating Work, Family, and Self. I am your host, Jamie Dottie Garza, and boom, we're going to talk about balance. Is there even such a thing? I call it harmony, to be honest with you. And I want to talk about this because recently, last Friday, I embarked on a new leadership class, right? And Leadership Fredericksburg. And it was our second day of class. And one of the big things and lessons we learned at the very end of that class was balance. Work, family, and self. And I was quite astonished because, we were supposed to break down, some of the sectors of our life and rate them in percents. And I felt very confident and awesome that, I have I think I put 40% down for work. I think I put 30% for family. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. And 30% for self. And that was what I thought. But I realized a lot of other of my colleagues, they majority poured into work. It was no balance. Like we're talking like 90% work at sometimes, maybe even one elaborated 1% self-care. Many questions were asked, the sleep count as self-care and how the sacrifice from their families and things like that. And immediately I just became very grateful and thankful because I feel like I have a great harmony in all those sectors, and mainly it attributes to, I believe, in my profession. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm celebrating 5 years in business, owning my company, which was a big milestone for me. But also this lifestyle has been able to maneuver from work, drifted into family, and of course going into self. Even some cases where I'm creating content like this works on myself. And my hobbies, creating podcasts, creating content, working to self, but it's work, but I involve my family. You see how it just meshes. I'll get into that in a second. And I remember during the exercise, we were to split up in the room of where we feel like we pour in the most to. I maneuver myself to self. And they also wanted to ask what is the most important. So I went into the self category. It was like me and maybe like 3 others. 80% was down at work, in the work field, and a few drifted off into family. That shift was wild. And me personally, I'm not perfect. I'm still figuring things out, by the way. And I was chosen to elaborate of why I chose self first. And I humbly said this has been a work in progress because I too almost lost everything when I was just so consumed in work. In fact, when I first started my business, Ignite Cinemas, in 2018, I remember, might even be before that, even when I was freelancing for a marketing company, I remember, let's go back to me freelancing to a marketing company before I even owned my company and created Ignite Cinemas. Let's go into like 2016, right? I remember my son being born at that time, and I was so immersed in my work because I was editing for this marketing agency and creating content, video. That's why I'm such a beast now. That's why deadlines are nothing to me because I remember I was working on 8 people's videos at once and just always locked in my office. And me and my wife talked about this the other day, and the money was fabulous, right? But what was sacrificing was the fact that, hey, you're a father now. Hey, the bills are getting paid, but you got to spend more time with your family. I wasn't focused on that at the time. I just thought like, hey, since I'm providing, that's the end all be all, right? And quickly I realized like that it was not healthy for not only myself, but also the mental health of my now wife and my family, just building camaraderie and being a leader. And it wasn't good for all of us. So as those years progressed, I remember in 2018, I started my company, again, very stressed because, again, I went from getting paid exceedingly well all the way back down to zero because guess what? I had no clients. No one knew me in my community. I didn't have no one to network. I didn't have a network. So during those first few years, I remember putting a lot of work in, a lot of grind, whether creating content, whether networking 3 times a week, whether following up, like it was consistent. You reap what you sow, right? And I remember some of the times I would drift off and not be as present as I am now with this harmony with my family. And it wasn't until, again, December of 2021, I suffered some of my deepest depression and darkness and trial that I'm thankful for now, you know, coming out of that light. But I did not see, I was in such despair, y'all. Like I was miserable. And I felt like that had to happen in order for me to reshift my mind of what needs to be important first. And it starts with self. When I elaborated to my class, I was transparent to, hey, I had this case happen to me in 2021, so it forced me to shift early, and which is true. Because from that point on, I realized when I found God, when I became more in his image, when I began praying, I realized it starts with you. Because honestly, if I'm not good, how can I pour into my family? How can I pour into my community? How can I pour into the people who need me? If you're pouring from an empty cup, it's not possible. And I realized I have to pour into myself first. Now, I'm going to share some of those things in this harmony because one thing I do, and you know, we're all habits of creature. We have a lizard brain, right? We can all say like, hey, I don't have time for this, or how do you make time? Because I knew those questions were going to pop up because when I was on the spot, when I was talking on Friday, I said every morning I wake up, I allocate 10 minutes to reading. Try to read a scripture a day in the Bible. Upon that, I pray. I pray before I even get up out of bed. I pray because I need guidance throughout the day. Because by the time I'm waking up and maneuvering, there's already 4,000 decisions being made by 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m. If I want, I open up my email, everything pours in. And I need to be guided. So I make sure I get prayer. Now, often I always take my son to the bus stop. And after that, I take my 10-minute walk. And that's where I'm disconnected. That's where I'm grateful. I might say some more prayers. There's not enough prayer in the world for me. I'm praying all the time, right? And I'm doing all this. I'll come in, I'll hydrate. I might journal, reflect. I'll do some pull-ups, and then I'll start my day about 9 a.m. and get ready for things to unfold. But this is my morning routine, and I had to sacrifice waking up early to be able to achieve this, to still feel on top of things, right? And the reason I say that is because this has all been a work in progress in finding harmony and balancing between it. I've also, sometimes, you know, I have weddings to film on the weekends, but for the most part, I like to acknowledge the Sabbath day on Saturday. I don't like to touch anything. I don't like to do any work on Saturday, unless I absolutely have to, but I truly disconnect over this weekend. I did just that. I dived into playing Super Mario Wonder on the Nintendo Switch. Love that game so far, and I had no guilt. You know, I was able to just chill, linger around, and be with my family and catch up because it's been a pretty hectic past 2 weeks. And that's what I'm grateful for. And I wanted to share this video because, one, if I'm almost like a hermit crab, I'm in my own bubble. Like, I have a few friends I talk to every day. If it ain't client work, if it ain't any of that, I love being in my home. I love the peace that my wife has help build around here, and I love being with my family and just staying in my own bubble. If it wasn't for this class, I'm saying I would not have had this deep appreciation of just understanding, finding this harmony and balance first, because oftentimes I hear it often, and it was my eyes open to it, the fact that majority of people are always working and put their work first because, of course, the bills have to be paid. But something else that shifted my mind was the fact that everyone, because, in my class, there's health professionals, there's a few entrepreneurs. I'm one of them. There's like maybe four entrepreneurs in that class. And we all range from different ages. Like we have maybe like 20-year-olds in their 20s. We have millennials in their 30s like me, maybe about five or say. And the remainder, for a class of, I believe, 30, are people who are in their 40s, 50s, and some even 60. And why I'm saying that is just to give context, is just the fact that in that work bunch, when people were just on this hamster wheel of work, one of the leaders said, you can be replaced any day. And that's true. Like if we think about our work, right, we might love our work, but especially if you work for a company, just like that, it can go and they can replace you and they'll find someone else. And the ball and the chains will keep moving. And I realized that on this journey of entrepreneurship. And that's why I wanted to build my own, because at least I have some skin in the game. I have some relationships and some accountability to not get to that point. Just recently, I heard local business in town, Geico, right? They laid off like over 2,000 people. It's a lot of people. And some of the people I know were affected by that right before the holidays. And yes, it's sad, but it's the fact of the matter, you can be replaced. So when you're pouring all this time into work, right? Who lacks? Family. You might have children like I do. And I could speak to this, first of all. Anyone tracking right now, I am an entrepreneur, being in business for 5 years. I am married. I have 3 children and a dog. I had to learn this earlier than later, and I'm so grateful I did. So take heed to what I'm talking about. Like, I'm in it right now. I'm refining this each and every day for this harmony. And it all starts with self. Prayer, making sure you're the best version you can be before you even pour out. I'm so grateful that my family's involved in my business. They're involved in what I do. They're involved into... Reason I'm saying this, if I worked the regular 9 to 5, like the last one I worked with, I think it was Best Buy or Lowe's, I would not have this balance right now, because work will be work, 8-hour shift there, right? You do 8 hours, you come home, you see your family. Hey, you might be drained because you're working 40 plus hours, right? I might be drained, and I have a newborn now. She's not a newborn, she's 1 now. Imagine being able to be like, hey, I can't even do the things I want. Let's say I want to play Nintendo Switch, or let's say I want to read. Nope, I got to help my wife, so let me do this. And then by the time you realize it, only self-care you have for yourself is sleep. And that's the majority, and that's the majority of how things are. And I realized that. I saw it firsthand. And a slippery slope, because I get it. Work. You need the money. I get it. But we also got to think way beyond that. And the reason I think like this so much is because I read all the principles already. It's in the Bible. And I keep reading it. And I keep reading about faith. I keep reading of what's important. And I'm going to continue to do that. So the reason I'm expressing this, you might be someone my age, you might be older than me, you might be younger than me. But it all starts with self. If you're not the best person you can be, if you're not self-caring you with things you love, how can you pour into any other pot? Now, again, gratefully blessed. I love what I'm doing. So work oftentimes, and this is like one of my pitfalls sometimes, because I would be love the work I do, love what I do. Obviously, I'm making this podcast for the video, right? I would forget to turn this switch off, and work would just like intertwine and blend in with other sectors of family and self, which it has. But there's also a time where I'm going to give you guys a breakdown of what my normal day-to-day is so you guys can get some ideas of harmony. First of all, we've been blessed. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. So we have dates in between the time my two oldest are in school, right? And we take our baby to go out to lunch, or we spend time together. Now she's on her workout journey. I'm encouraging her because guess what? I can maneuver my schedule whenever I need. Anywho, back to the plot. Back to the story. My typical day. Let's say we start on Monday. I'm typically waking up at 6:45 in the morning. That allocates me 15 minutes to pray, be thankful when I wake up. It also gives me time to read for at least 10 minutes and start my day. After that, I am up, get myself together, brush my teeth, wash my face, and then prep and get my son Carter ready. He starts to do that. We're out the house by 7:50. Bus comes around 7:55, 8 o'clock. From 8 to about 8:15, 8:10, I am walking. I make this mandatory. I am walking. I take a walk. I pray. I observe. It's unplugged. After that, I come home like 8:30. I see my oldest on the bus. I make sure he's good. Everybody's fine. I take my dog out, take him on a walk. 8:45. Come back. I knock out my pull-ups. I journal. And then at that time, I'll kiss my baby. I talk to my wife for a little bit, and then I get on track. 9 a.m., my day starts. In between time, I try to stay in focused work. It might change. I might have to go film a client. I might have to do some sales calls. I might have meetings, or it might be a day where I'm sending off projects. I'm editing projects. We don't know. I might be creating content like this. I always make time, at least 4 hours, and then I disconnect because around 2 or 3, on a good day if I'm home, which is always great, I will go pick up my son from the bus. Then I might intertwine some work, but by 5 p.m., I am disconnected. And I disconnect out, and I use that time to spend time with my family. So about dinner time around 7, 7:30, maybe 8, and I'm still dialed out. And then if I want to grind a little bit extra, I might get some time to pour in like maybe 10 to 12 on creating YouTube content or catching up on work. But most of the time I might read. I might put my daughter to sleep if she wants daddy's arms instead of mommy's arms for the day. She's spoiled. Yeah, I know. It is what it is though. That's the lifestyle I want. And then I restart my day. So as you can hear right there, there's a lot of balance already right there with work, with self, with family. And that's my typical day-to-day. Again, there's no such thing as a balance because it's all harmony. Things change, different seasons change, things have to shift. But I wanted to share that context because that has been, I didn't appreciate the value in that until we did the exercise in my leadership class last Friday. And I just realized how grateful I am to be in this position to kind of like get it now early. Because some of those people who didn't get it, and no shame at them, that's how life is. That's how the world is. A lot of them were in their 40s and 50s. And here I am at 34. I'm like, when we talk about being blessed, right? That's one of the things I'm blessed in that I had no clue I was blessed. So I'm just extremely grateful to have some type of harmony. Again, I'm still learning it, but a lot of it attributes to discipline. A lot of it attributed to all the books I've read, self-help books, and getting my mind right. Of course, prayer and praying to God and letting God lead, because that's the reason for all of this. I'm going to praise his name first in each and everything I do. He gives us peace, a peace of mind. That's his goal. And just knowing that he'll provide for us. Yes, you have to put the work in, but it doesn't mean to work so much that you forget and lose touch of one, yourself, and two, of your family that you may be providing for. I just want to share these reflections. I know as we continue to shift and move forward and develop, it might feel more intense and you might be in different seasons of your life, but I wanted to share my personal experience and my thoughts and share these thoughts with the world because it happens. So the next time you're trying to balance and navigate and trying to get more harmony in your life, I challenge you guys to start with you first. And it's not selfish, because you have to nurture yourself first. You have to be the best you can be. And if that means like taking 30 minutes or an hour for you, because you deserve it, do it. That might have to sacrifice you waking up 1 hour earlier, but that's 1 hour for you only. And you don't have to feel no guilt, right? Challenge you, do it. You deserve it. And you might feel like, you know what, I'm going to use that 1 hour to sleep 1 more hour. Then so be it, if that's your self-care. But I guarantee you, there's something that you enjoy doing, that you love doing, and you haven't done it in a while. I challenge you to make some time for yourself. We all have 24 hours. That's a given. Every one of us. Unless you don't believe time, which, you know what, that's another topic for another time. Okay, I'm not going to get in there. But we all have 24 hours. Allocate at least 1 hour to yourself every day, and it'll add up. Over the course of the whole year, that's 365 hours you allocated to yourself. Self-care starts with you. Those habits build over time. Nonetheless, I want you guys to stay blessed by the best. And remember, we are all like sticks of dynamite. The power's on the inside. But nothing happens until the fuse gets lit. Ignite the world. Leaders